Friends, homies, watchers, we are back with another episode of our analysis for the Tao Te Ching. This time we're on chapter 6, my friends. So, as usual, we've been out here getting woke. The last chapter we were on, let me grab my book here. We were talking about cultivating emptiness, right? Cultivating emptiness, which kind of in a brief summary, right, talks about how wise men behave the rules of the universe and stray away from strictly following social norms and being brainwashed, right? Can't be sheep out here, man. The Tao's out here giving real talk lessons. So let's just jump into chapter 6, man, see what it has to say, and hope we can learn something today, right? So Tao Te Ching chapter 6, the valley spirit never dies. It is called the mystical female. The entrance to the mystical female is called the root of heaven and earth. Though gossamer, as if barely existing, it is used, but never spent. Alright, hold on. So first thing I gotta do is look up what the word gossamer means in the first place. It's a fine, filmy substance consisting of cobwebs. Something that's very light, thin, or insubstantial or delicate. Okay, so let's take a look at this. I'm getting some like sexual overtones from this one, like the femininity and that kind of stuff, right? The valley spirit never dies. It is called the mystical female. So the valley spirit is known as the mystical female, and the entrance to the mystical female is called the root of heaven and earth. So like a lot of this is from some previous understanding that I got. A lot of these valley references have to do with like the yin and femininity and like fertility and stuff. And so that's what I'm kind of getting from this, right? Is that it's saying that in the essence of the feminine and fertility lies the root of heaven and earth. So in essence, where all things originated, right? And though gossamer, so like though fine and delicate, as if it barely exists, it is used but never spent. So basically it spans infinitely, right? That it's, though it seems delicate, or as though, all right guys, I apologize, that's the siren for our little village over here. It goes off at 12 o'clock every day. So give me 1 second, we're gonna take a brief coffee break real quick, drink some of that up, and we'll keep talking, man. But delicate and fine, and sometimes it seems as though it's not there and that it'll be used up or destroyed, but in actuality it's infinite, right? It expands everlasting. So let's take a look at the booklet and see what we got here. So chapter 6 within our text is called the spirit of the valley, and this one states the spirit of the valley is a sacred feminine principle. Its gateway is the root of the cosmos. So again, going back to the statement that within female nature, within this femininity, lies the root of all things, within both heaven and earth, right? So like an unbroken silk thread, it is inexhaustible, so it's everlasting. This one's kind of esoteric, huh? But I get, I guess, literally what it's trying to say, but this is a pretty high concept, right? I think this is going to take some time to really marinate. And I guess it's one thing that's cool though, is that it's embracing, and it's the way that it's celebrating feminine nature, you know, which is something that especially nowadays gets kind of crapped on, like being feminine is something like bad, or just which kills me, right? It's ridiculous, because we need both the masculine and the feminine in life. There's so much good that comes from feminine traits, and like how that offsets the strengths and weaknesses of masculine energy. And I think that's what a lot of what this goes into, right? Is that at the heart and the root of what the feminine nature is lies a great deal of what makes up the world. You know, it's infinite and there's power in it. Feeling it. All right, so we're getting a bonus today, guys. So we're going into chapter 7 as well, since this one is so short. So let me get some things pulled up real quick. I'll be right back with chapter 7. All right, homies, we are here again to jump into chapter 7. We just got done with 6. We talked about how short it was and stuff, right? So I want to give y'all some bonuses, something else to take one for the road, you know, just because I like you guys so much. So let me drink my hot bean water Let's take a look at chapter 7. So heaven is eternal and earth is lasting. So heaven goes on forever and earth is lasting. How can they be eternal and lasting? So it lives on forever and yet limited? Because they do not live for themselves. That is how they can be eternal. So it's stating that a thing that does not exist just for its own benefit is something that can be eternal. It's deep. Therefore, the sage puts himself last and becomes the first, neglects himself and is preserved. Is it not because he is unselfish that he fulfills himself? Oh, that's a banger. That's pretty good. So let's read that one again. So the sage puts himself last, the wise man, right, puts himself last and becomes the first. He neglects himself and is preserved. So by putting the wants and needs of others before himself, he's immortal, right? He lives everlasting, which makes sense, right? Because to me, like the people that always stick out in my mind the most, and the people that I saw as like being the most, I guess, role model-esque, or like people that I look to in my life, and I'm just like, man, that person really had their crap together, were people that I viewed as putting a goal or others above their own selfish needs. You know, like that's something that I've always had a lot of respect for. So this like rings home in a really true and practical way to me. That makes a lot of sense. By neglecting himself, he is preserved. So I don't think this means not necessarily like not taking care of themselves physically or just like appearance wise or just that kind of thing, but just saying that like a person who is wise is able to go without and doesn't need to have everything, but in this way they become immortal. You know, they, by not feeling as though they have to have the most or have more than others, by living in simplicity, they themselves are able to I don't want to put it, man, by not feeling as though they have to have every worldly thing, they become bigger than worldly things, if that makes sense, right? By like not giving into the material world or being solely focused on the material world around them, they become more expansive and move past the material, is what I was trying to get out. And is it not because that he is unselfish that he fulfills himself, which is it's so interesting, right? Because this goes so much against Western philosophy and our whole ideas about like the importance of the self and putting oneself and one's needs ahead of others, right? We're so individualistic in Western society, but this wisdom from the East, right, from the Tao, talks about how through becoming unselfish, one reaches true fulfillment. Which again rings really home to me, right? Because I think of some of the moments where I felt like I was doing the most good in the world or to others, or just felt like I felt like that my reasons for being on this earth were like made more apparent, you know, that I had a reason to be here. They were moments where I was like doing something for somebody else, you know, whether it was a gift, whether it was volunteering my time, whether it was helping out with someone. Though there was hardship in the activity, the reward and the sense of fulfillment that I got from participating and trying to help somebody else out, it made me feel so much bigger and more fulfilled than like anything I could have just bought myself, you know, any material good. So that's a banger, man. Chapter 7, huh? Okay, so let's jump into the text, guys. Let's look at chapter 7 here and see what it has in the book. So, self through selflessness. Heaven is long lasting and earth is enduring. Thus, as it is in itself long lasting and enduring, but does not exist for its own benefit, the cosmos may endure. So again, going back to that ideal and that reality that when something doesn't exist just for its sole benefit, it enters the realm of the immortal. In the same way, the enlightened man may place himself last, but come first, and may neglect himself and yet be preserved. And I think the way that this describes it is great too, because I think of the people that in my life that I've seen and from personal experience as well, who are always willing to put themselves last and like let people go ahead of them for things. And do you guys notice how much more it makes you want to put that person first, or like how it makes you want better for that person when they're not constantly trying to vie for like first place or try to get ahead of everyone else? But when you meet somebody that is sincerely humble and genuine and is not trying to get over on everybody or has to be first in everything that they do, it makes you want to see them win, and it allows them to become first because they get help and support from everybody else. It seems contradictory, but it makes a lot of sense, because this isn't just like the philosophical ramblings of a crazy man, right? Like, the more I really process this and think about it, the more of the things that it's talking about here are things that I've seen in real life, which is sick, you know, which is awesome. So it is his lack of self-interest that allows him to fulfill himself. So that's the thing with being a human being, right? Is that wants and desires are an everlasting game. If we are being completely honest with ourselves, if our goal is material goods or material things, it's never enough. Like, there's always going to be a new game that we could get, a new car, a new woman, a new house. Not that women are things, but that's how some people think, right? It's just, they think that like the only way to fulfill themselves is by getting a new like man or woman, a new partner, people are always searching for something, you know, whether it's fulfilling their lust, fulfilling our greed, whether it's fulfilling our gluttony, you know, like all those like those major sins that stick out in our head, right? It's just, sometimes we can be on a constant chase to fulfill those needs, but like, when does it end? You know, like if you have one girlfriend and you get bored and like, now I want multiple, now I want two, now I want three, now I want to do this. It's almost like the biblical like Sodom and Gomorrah thing, you know, not to dive too deep into Christianity, but I think there's some powerful metaphors in some of those stories, right? Where like how in Sodom and Gomorrah, right, like there was the place was basically destroyed because debauchery kept growing and growing, right? Like, it wasn't enough to just have like to have sex and just like, oh man, we're having so much fun. Like, when you start at one level, that level eventually becomes boring, so you got to step it up and step it up and step it up in order to get that same thrill, right? And it doesn't stop until you end up destroying yourself, right? And I think that's the lesson there. And I also think that's the lesson here, is when we're constantly seeking to fill that void with other stuff, you know, like whether it be with people, whether it be with riches, money, whatever sort of property or things that we find value in, you're going to be on an endless and infinite chase, and it's gonna destroy you, or you're gonna waste your life trying to pursue it, right? So I think that what the Tao is saying, right, is by learning to forsake that and put your time and effort and energy into something outside of yourself, something bigger than yourself, you're able to achieve the infinite, you know, like you truly become bigger than just one human being looking to fulfill their own selfish needs. So there's a lot to marinate on in this chapter, man. This is a really good one. So let me know what you guys think, man. I want to hear your interpretations of chapter 6 and 7, and yeah, tell me what you guys thought. Like, am I on the right track? Did you guys read or interpret it differently? How are you guys feeling about it? And thanks for sticking around, man. I can't wait to do this again with you guys. So see you later.